What up, YouTube? Back with the Wheel account, sharing with you guys my progress trading cash secure puts and covered calls. This week was actually very good. We capitalized on the market's upswing on Monday, I think it was. So March 23rd, we saw a pretty good green day. And this is on the week chart. And I'll move myself here. But we saw a lot of negativity in the last couple of days. So Iran, that whole war stuff is not going so well. With US's involvement, we saw a lot of money flowing out of high beta stocks, positions like Robinhood, like Meta, Microsoft, a lot of software stocks, a lot of pain in the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, really, since October. But we remain invested. This is a good time to accumulate. So if you have cash on the sides waiting to time the bottom, this happens all the time. Like, when's the bottom going to hit? Nobody knows. And if someone's saying that they know, they're probably lying to you. I think at this point, certain stocks like Microsoft, like Meta's trading at a lower P ratio than a lot of different like real estate companies, for example, that trade at a very conservative multiple. So Meta, for example, like there's a lot of negativity. They're getting sued for essentially running an addictive platform. The DOJ is always going after stuff like that, man. They're going after Google last year over Google Chrome, and that's like different because like a monopoly they were calling it. They ended up not winning that because Google Chrome is not a monopoly, and there's always negativity. And whenever stuff like this happens, it's opportunity for you to capitalize. So back in 2022, when I was trading Meta, it traded down to $90, and that was honestly the best time to get into Meta. Whenever the whole metaverse thing was going on and Zuck was freaking out, investing like $80 billion, and they were changing their name from Facebook to Meta. A lot of uncertainty. The market reacted drastically. The stock traded down a lot. And if you were to buy at $90 and held all throughout this time, and where Meta's trading at a 530, 550 now, insane. So I think Meta's $1,000 stock. I think they're going to trade at a 33 PE ratio in the coming year or two. And right now they're trading at a 19. So I think that's one of the greatest opportunities you could get right now is to start accumulating some of these news positions, because we might be seeing the bottom. I don't know. Nobody knows, but we've been seeing a lot of pain these last couple of weeks. And I wouldn't be surprised if whenever we pull out of this war, or there's a lot of more clarity of what's going on with US's involvement in Iran, we're going to have an idea of the future outlook. Whenever things resolve in Iran, we're going to see a lot of green. That might come next week. It might come in a month, maybe 2, 3, maybe 6 months. But at this point, we're seeing a couple of tickers like Meta, for example, that I've been talking about, trade at a pretty good price, in my opinion. If you're into crypto, Bitcoin and Ethereum are both good prices right now, in my opinion. This is not financial advice. We're seeing Ethereum hovering at like 2K, Bitcoin trading at like 66. Those are great prices, guys. I think this happens all the time. Well, not all the time, but every couple of years, we see a lot of negativity, like in 2022 with Russia and Ukraine, a lot of conflict overseas. Market doesn't like it, traded down. 2020, COVID, of course, that's a major thing, traded down. We recovered. 2018, a trade war with China. Whenever Trump was in office, we traded down for a month or two. Like, negativity is always going to be around. So get used to it and capitalize on whenever stuff like this happens. So I want to be sitting on the sidelines for super long. I would start buying some of these positions that you know about. So a lot of these softer stocks, for example, have been beaten up bad last couple of months. But let's talk about the account. Robinhood is trading down pretty good. We actually had a pretty bad day for Robinhood. -7% almost. Geez. So our position's actually down 22%. We can start averaging down some more too, buying some shares with the premium. We got a little bit of money to play with at this point. And I sold a contract on Monday. So I was actually able to sell my covered call on the 25th, which I showed you guys in my last video. So go check that out. but we were able to capitalize on a pretty big green day, trading at $74, and now we're trading at 65. So of course our contract was out of the money by a lot, and I was able to buy it back for a couple of dollars. So let's go back to the contract, and I covered a little bit more in my last video, and I'll show you guys a big spreadsheet with all of our gains for the week. I bought it back at $3.26. So only a couple of days later after I sold the contract. So let's go show more. Sold the contract for $42 in premium, and I was able to capitalize on that and buy it back a couple of days later. So let me show you guys the total P&L for the week, and let's talk to that. So going back to our beautiful Excel, let me get this a little bigger for you guys. So this was last week's returns. We saw a $363 week, which is pretty good. We didn't get assigned. Last week was actually very similar to this week's when it comes to price action. We saw a very big green day followed by Trump's tweets, of course. And I capitalized on it. And same thing this week. I sold my covered calls early in the week, and we're able to book a $405 week for week 2 of our challenge. And I'll show you this, guys. It doesn't always go your way. I actually took a screenshot of my AMD covered call I sold, and I was actually down $413. So my contract was actually almost in the money. AMD was trading at 219 for a brief moment there this week. So these stocks like AMD, like Robinhood, they're gonna swing a lot. So we saw like a 7% day for AMD on some good news when it comes to their chip manufacturing, and a lot of upside there. And my contract got very close to being in the money. But like I talked about, you got to understand your worst case scenario. Like I was talking about, my basis on AMD, it's at 220. So if I were to get assigned, I'm breaking even on my contract, which is good. I'm actually making a couple $100 because I've been selling covered calls on AMD for last year and this year as well. But this just goes to show, like, whenever you're selling weeklies, you're going to see your contract move a lot. That's why I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of setting stop losses, because look at this. I was down 1,116% in a day. So this is how it goes. There's a lot of extrinsic value in these contracts whenever you see price movement swing a lot on good news or bad news. Whenever you're trading these contracts, implied volatility, it spikes, and that's a lot of why the contract moves so much. So a lot of stuff to go through, but I just wanted to show you guys, you just have to remain calm. This contract expired worthless. So if I were to panic and roll my contract, for example, a couple of weeks out and a couple of strikes up to break even and, not get assigned, I would have been in not necessarily a good position. Just wanted to show you guys shit like this happens, and you just have to take it and, be used to it. It takes a little bit of time, but don't panic. Understand your worst case scenario. And if you were to get assigned, how does that look for you? So that's really important, because I was calm whenever this happened. I was like, if I get assigned on this, that's fine. Then I can start running the wheel again. I can sell cash secure puts. It opens up some capital for me. So it wouldn't be the worst case if this happened, right? So like I talked about, we'll get the screenshot out of the way. Just wanted to show you guys this. For week 2, we made $405. This was actually a pretty big milestone for us. Made $1,040 so far, which I'm super happy. And the 1,040 is coming from week 1 that we talked about, week 2, and the previous covered calls I was selling on Robinhood before I started making the videos, totaling $272. So pretty happy with this week's progress. We'll see how price is next week. I don't know if we're going to see another big red week, or if we're going to see some good news early week like we've been seeing, and we might be able to capitalize on that. But we remain bullish on the outcome of this. I think some of these stickers are trading, like Amazon, Meta, AMD, Robinhood, Google. Those are all great high beta companies That's why they feel a lot of pain whenever we see downturns like this. We've seen some of the largest outflows of money in these last couple of weeks from all time. So, this is not necessarily the most normal time to be investing, but it's never going to be normal. It's never going to be easy. There's always going to be bad news, good news, and you have to navigate accordingly. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. We broke $1,000 this week 2. We'll see if we can do another couple $100 next week. Maybe I won't trade next week. If we start seeing a lot of rebound or signs of Iran not necessarily engaging in war anymore in the US, withdrawing their troops, we might see a lot of green. And I think whenever that happens, it would be a good day, and you should be able to capitalize on it too by buying these companies at lower valuations like it's happening now. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, gave you guys some ideas to think about. Go get some of your cash and start buying some of these stickers. This is not financial advice, of course. Do your own due diligence. I'm a fan of these companies, and I've shared why, but wanted to share some of the income for this week, and hopefully you learn a thing or two and have a great weekend. And if you're still here, I want to see you guys win. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Talk to you guys soon.